mean for the normal South African, I mean, it means people will lose faith and hope in government. And when it comes to, you've mentioned that the opposition parties are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Their opposition is just to get the ANC off of them being the ruling party so that they can be the ruling party. But it's not necessarily that of them wanting an economic transformation, because if they also wanted an economic transformation, then they are in the right position to be able to hold the government accountable for that. Now, what happens with regards to the budget? If there is a set allocation, a budget that has been set for a specific project, and that project was not, or there's no deliverables when it comes to that specific project, what happens to the money? I'm quite interested. Does it
what has happened here, and it happens in companies, it happens in NGOs, and anybody who has a budget, anybody who's directed, dictated, and determined by a budget, right? So a budget is basically money received locally vis-a-vis from the province, but primarily money allocated by the state, the national government. Now what these people do, they do what we call reallocations. So money has been moved from one department to the other based on what we call isingis, knee-jerk reaction. So we are no longer, we are partially guided, whether wholly, all right, or fully, partially guided by the budget, but the budget doesn't determine its ultimate conclusion as to what we should do. Right? Now I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example about climate change.
Yeah.
Last year he spoke about climate change. I mean, he spoke quite a bit about climate change. For example, honorable members, climate change is here to stay. Air quality, water quality is on the decline. More vulnerable sectors are at risk, especially informal sectors. We now enter the era of disasters. We have to be ready as a provincial government, and those were his words. We're establishing a disaster management center, state-of-the-art disaster management equipment. It will house helicopters. I mean, he's made all these empty promises. He couldn't even buy two, which he couldn't even deal with crime. But he's talking about disaster management, drones, wara. But this year, he talks about the Vaal River. He says the province will consider use of Nasi Spani. You know, Ispani. It's a Kasi word in partnership with Rand Water to eradicate floating water lettuce from the Vaal River. What he's not telling us is that is a consequence of broken sewer going into rivers which end up polluting dams. That is what he should be talking about. We want a government that is effective in dealing with these issues, not coming up with rhetoric and making speeches just for the sake of speeches. That's my point. So if you had to ask me, and the listener had to ask me, and the good question would be, we can't just knock the ruling party, because the ruling party is only kept on its toes in terms of enforcement, in terms of implementation by opposition. So if I had to give opposition on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, what would I give opposition? I'd give them 3. And what would we give the ruling party on a scale of 0 to 10? The ruling party has failed dismally on all the promises they've made. They have contributed. They've made quite a bit of some good things they've done. No doubt about that. But where would we put them? We'd give them 4.
Yes, more things still in done.
Because the most critical thing for residents of Gauteng is e-tolls, but they are paying every day. All right, they're not paying now, but somebody's going to have to pay for it. So e-tolls, but the main thing is load shedding, lack of water, lack of housing, right? I'll give you an example, quickly. He spoke about township economy.
Yes.
We've spent 22 billion, wara. Last year, in terms of township economy, he spoke about, and I quote, right? I'm just trying to find it quickly. Township economy. Township, there's it here. Hostels. He never spoke.
In conclusion, the Samuel H. Kennedy you'll just speak to us briefly about townships in just a minute and give us your conclusion on the state of the province address, so that we can then. So we are always wishing we have more time.
Yeah.
You know,
on township last year, he spoke about capacitating, creating a facility that will enable township spaza shops, township retailers, we call them, so that they have buying power to compete with Spar, Checkers, Pick and Pay, and so forth.
yes.
He never spoke about that at all, apart from saying, well, the Gauteng government is now buying from township retailers. At what cost are they buying?
You have just reminded me, it's unfortunate we don't have more time, that in 2023, there was even a plan on